Hello YouTube, Dave here again. Today I'm going to be giving a review on the Starfinder Alien Archive 3. Now this book has actually been out for a little while now. I just wasn't able to pick it up at the time that it released, but I finally have it in my collection now, and I'm looking forward to discussing it. So this is the third in the Alien Archive series, obviously, which is the bestiary, basically, for the Starfinder role-playing game. It's your collection of monsters. It's your monster book for this particular role-playing game. The US retail price on this is $39.99. Now I paid Canadian for this. However, the bookstore chain that I ordered this from actually had it on a decent sale, so I think I only paid like $2 more than the U.S. retail, which was actually kind of nice. It's you know, it was nice to be able to get it at a discount. But anyway, without further ado, let's just sort of flip through it here. Now I'm not going to go through and describe every creature that's in here. I'll just sort of let you see the artwork. And there are certain ones that I'll touch on, but essentially when it comes to, these types of monster books, generally speaking, they are well worth picking up. And I find with the Starfinder ones in general, they just have such a cool, diverse assortment of bizarre looking creatures that it's really, they're usually pretty much slam dunk purchases to pick up. Now, the first Alien Archive and Alien Archive 2 were essentially just your creature books, but there's something else added into this one that sort of makes it stand apart, and is another reason why, spoiler alerts, I guess, for the purpose of the review, I think that this would be a really solid purchase to get. But anyway, like I said, there's just some fantastic artwork in here, and like I said, I'm not going to read every single racial entry or everything, but what's always cool about these particular books, the Alien Archives in general, is that they are chock full of not only new creatures, but a ton of options for players if they want to play some of the creatures that are presented in these books. And even going back to the original Alien Archive, is something that has always been pretty prevalent in all of these. So for here, for example, we have the Bernari, which is sort of like a race of otter folk, which reminds me of like an episode of South Park. I'm not going to get into that here, but it's just really cool to see these otters. But they actually have an option for you to play them as player characters, and generally speaking, these races typically are pretty well balanced when you compare it to the other standard races that are available to you. These ones will probably never have as many unique options presented in later books, like the character operations manual or things along those lines, but it is cool to be able to just have some really unique creatures that you can play as player characters. So we have another option here as well. And yeah, I mean, there's just so many cool monsters in here. Things like the Diaspora worm, I think, is pretty cool. And then we have the Diath, which is giant space slugs. This is always some cool stuff in here. Now this one has Starmetal Dragons, which dragons in Starfinder, what they typically do is they give you a standard stat block that you can modify for different sizes. There's rules for modifying creatures as well. But then you get these templates which you can apply to them in order to create the specific dragon that you're looking for. So for example, this one uses the Horicalcum metal template, which is what's applied to the dragon here. So you can sort of work out what this gives them, roll that back, and then apply another template to it. If you wish. It's just an easy way to modify the creatures, I guess. So I haven't actually done it yet for a game, but it's something that I should actually try. I think it might make for an interesting video. I just haven't gotten around to doing it yet. So you have just some interesting creatures all around. We have drift natives, and then we have drift dead, which are individuals who were exposed to the drift, which is sort of this extra-dimensional space that is used to traverse well, not just the Pact Worlds, but known space in the Starfinder world. However, horrific things can happen there. So we have like the Drift Dead, which are sort of a more powerful kind of like just zombie. But then you also have the Drift Amalgam, which is just kind of horrific to look at. So you have a bunch of Skittermanders that died in the drift, and their bodies fused together to form this just horrific creature. So it just, again, cool stuff here. They're also templated, so you can use it to create your own unique twists on the creatures within here. So yeah, again, just lots of cool stuff in here. And I have to say, that's always been one of the strengths of the Starfinder ones in particular. It's just really interesting to see just what kinds of creatures the folks at Paizo come up with. And there's just all manner of bizarre and interesting creatures in here. Here we have the Formian Queen. So I think Formians were in the original Alien Archive. It was either 1 or 2. So this is if you wanted to run a campaign where they were a big part of it. Well, now you have essentially like their leader. You also have in this book the giant space tardigrade, and oh man, it's just so weird and cool, and I kind of love it. Then you have like the water bear, which it looks like they've converted into like almost like a submarine or a research station on the back of this gargantuan creature. Just, I don't know, just all kinds of cool stuff here. So we have some new golems, gremlins, which actually kind of remind me of, what is it, the Sableye Pokemon for some reason. Anyway, weird stuff, but still cool. Then you have the Hanakin, which are like a race of raptor people. And these are actually small size. They're not like the Jurassic Park raptors. They're a little closer to what actual raptors might be. Then you have to have some fungus people, so the Hortus. And they have options for player characters as well, which are sprinkled pretty much all throughout this book. Now, here we have the Hound of Tyndalos, and this is actually a spell that it has, which is called Dimensional Anchor, and that just essentially prevents extra-dimensional travel for a period of time. And again, just like I said, just some bizarre creatures. I don't know why, but he kind of reminds me of a Transformer. But yeah, like I said, I always felt kind of bad that I never picked this up when it first released. I think there was just a bunch of Pathfinder 2nd edition stuff that was coming out around that time, and just some other things, unfortunately, that kind of got in my way of being able to pick this up. And looking through it, I really wish that I had picked it up a little bit sooner. I mean, you have like a philosopher worm. That just sounds cool. Quantum slime. These guys I really like. The Raxolite. Just I don't know. There's just something about them. Like they're so. I don't know. They're just so. I don't want to say goofy looking because that's not the right term, but they just look so like innocent and kind of adorable that I just wanna. I would play one of these, and you can, because they're one of the options available to you. Oh, CR25, okay. I actually haven't looked at this one too much yet here. The Rendelarn. So this is CR, that is kind of like a world destroyer, it looks like. Juggernaut's Resolve. I'll have to, yeah, anyway, just, so there's some pretty serious threats included in here. You also have some rogue drones, which I kind of wish I had this book when I was running my Starfinder game before everything sort of went the way that it did. Because I had the party, they made their characters independently of each other, and like three of the 4 players made mechanics. And they all had this thing where they would just send their drones out ahead to scout, and 2 of them got destroyed because of it. And if I kind of wish I had the rogue drone, like if I had this book back then, I may have had the other one turn rogue and rebel against them, because they're tired of being sent out to basically get to minesweep. So yeah, again, some cool stuff here. Now this monster was really interesting to me. So this is not the Skittermander, but the Stridermander. So they are from the same planet that Skittermanders are from, but these are just more powerful, sort of like an offshoot genetic cousin, I guess you could say, of the Skittermanders. And these things just look horrifying. And yeah, I would absolutely want to use these in a game, especially, you know, they go to this planet where there's all these Skittermanders, and all of a sudden one of these kind of jumps out at them. Then we have the Swarm, which is also an aspect of the Starfinder game that I really love. So again, just so many interesting things. I don't want to sound too repetitive. We also have a race of turtle people, because that's a thing. Time Dimensional, an outsider, tripod, and then we got our good old-fashioned trolls, regular trolls, and then we got the void troll there, which looks pretty gross. But oh man, I mean, the troll art here is really cool too. I mean, the art overall has just been really fantastic in all these books. You got Valkyries. Now we're about to come up on, actually I really like these guys as well, but we're about to come on probably one of my favorite inclusions in this book, which is right here, The Great Race of Yith. So as a fan of H.P. Lovecraft, these guys, I just love the fact that they're included here. So this is sort of an extinct race, in a sense, but they also mastered the ability to time travel and to actually like swap brains, or swap minds. I shouldn't say swap brains, but swap minds with individuals, so that they can sort of experience the reality through like their eyes, while the people that they sort of mind swapped with have access to like the Yithian library and can learn basically anything that they want, which usually doesn't go well because, again, the Yiths don't have the strongest sense of like a cohesive linear time, because they sort of exist in this weird time traveling state. So even though the race is technically extinct, they're not, because they have like mind swapped individuals all throughout different periods in history, including the future. But just really cool stuff to have in there, so I love that. But then we get into creature companions, and this was a huge addition to the Starfinder game. I actually had players that always liked the idea of having an animal companion. Most of their characters in fantasy RPGs, for example, have one, and they really wanted to have one in Starfinder, but they just didn't have the rules for it at the time. But now we do. So you have sort of their base stats, and then there's certain modifications that you can make to them, just the description of their standard actions. And we also have a creature companion stats, so they have different levels. So these are the levels at which the creatures... oh, sorry, that's for the stat block. But you have, so they can actually level up alongside of the characters, which is similar to how like drones work. So it's a very similar sort of setup. But yeah, I mean, it's just such a huge thing to finally have in the game, and there's all kinds of interesting companions that you can have access to, which is, again, just really, really cool. So if you're the kind of person that likes to have a pet sort of thing, or you like to have an animal companion that you fight alongside, then this is the Starfinder book that introduces that for you. And that's like the biggest addition to this book, and it's one of the reasons that I highly recommend it, because even if there are people that don't necessarily think of that initially, when it becomes an option, for example, then it's just a great system to have in place. And you could even plant the seeds of it by having the characters come across one of these creatures in maybe like a wounded state, or when they're super young, and if they develop an attachment to the creature, then you can actually have them get stronger alongside of the player characters. And that's just, like I said, it's just a huge addition to the game. So that was my look through the Alien Archive 3. And overall, this is a fantastic product. The Alien Archives have always been really well done. Like, they're just exceptional books. There's always cool to see some highly creative, unusual, bizarre creatures. But they've always been done really well. The fact that there are tons of new options for player characters, for players that want to embrace the strangeness of the Starfinder worlds, to play something that sort of goes a bit beyond the standard kind of player's handbook or core rule book type races, then this is going to be a worthwhile purchase. If you are a game master running Starfinder, it's always great to have these books available to you to have these diverse options. Also, if you're someone who stays up to date with the adventure paths, a lot of them will reference the available Alien Archive books that were out at the time that they were being released. So some of the newer ones, like the Attack of the Swarm or the I think the Threefold Conspiracy, for example, may very well reference Alien Archive 3. I know I've seen references to Alien Archive 3 in the Deck of Many Worlds product, so I'm finally glad to have that in my collection. And you're not going to go wrong with this book. New creatures is always great. Player options for characters is also great. But then to top it off with the creature companion rules, it just adds a whole other level to this book. And this is something that I think makes this a sort of a must-have, especially for groups where you have players that really like to use animal companions or like to have these creatures that they fight alongside of. And I know one of the reasons that some of my players were upset that I took so long to get this book was because that's what they wanted to do, but I didn't own it, so I wasn't allowing things from books that I didn't personally own and have the ability to be able to study and read through before running a session. But yeah, this is just a very, very solid purchase. Again, great creatures in there, cool designs, but the biggest thing is just those creature companion rules, something that is a very, very welcome addition to the game. And I think that alone is one of the key selling points to this product, and I think it's totally worth having for any Starfinder game master out there. So let me know in the comments below if any of you have picked up the Alien Archive 3, and if so, what are some of your favorite creatures from inside the books, or if any of your players have used the companion rules, let me know how you set that up and how that developed, because I always like to hear how people have been able to use these books in their own games. So anyway, thank you guys very much for watching, hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next time. Take care.